This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel. And let me tell you, you know what? She has been snowing like crazy, but I'm not alone. If you're in northern Alberta, if you're in southern Alberta, if you're in Saskatchewan today, it has been an absolute scary snowfall since about midday yesterday. I mean, we didn't have a lot of snowfall early on yesterday afternoon, but all of a sudden overnight it has piled up and it is pretty dang scary. I can't get out my front door. I can get out the back door thanks to the dog, but I can't get out the front door, and that really is a testament to just how much it's been snowing and blowing down here in southern Alberta this morning and through last night. So, you know what? Let's talk about things that pertain to maybe happier times for us, i.e. Edmonton Oilers hockey being played once again, and that would be Mr. Tyler Ennis and what he can bring to the table for the Oilers in the upcoming season. You see right here, I had Tyler Ennis predicted at 24 points in a 48-game pace, so about a half point per game pace. Well, that's interesting, right? Because he was close to that this year. He was at 37 points in 61 games, so that's just over a half a point, or 37 points in 70 games, pardon me, over the course of the season with Ottawa and the Oilers. But the problem is he saw 14 minutes average time on ice this past season. That's by far one of his highest totals since the 18 minutes 23 games with Buffalo back in 15-16. So is he a guy that gets better with more ice time? We'd hope so, because you would figure Tyler Ennis is going to be the left winger on the third line. Now, by what has happened with signing Dominic Cahoon, it's no longer a question, does Tyler Ennis find himself playing with Connor McDavid? No, that's either Cahoon or Nugent Hopkins. So now the best Tyler Ennis can hope for is to play with Turris and Puljujarvi. And you know, I've also suggested having Neal on that third line left wing situation. But I think when it comes down to it, you can really do a couple of things here with everything about that. And I think, you know what, the Oilers probably would be best suited to go with Tyler Ennis on the third line, because he's a guy who can play off of the other players as opposed to James Neal, who's just going to have the puck a little bit more. And especially with Jesse Puljujarvi on your line, you want to give Jesse as much of the puck as possible to just keep shooting it and hopefully bagging a whole bunch of goals and really making that contract look good. I mean, that's the simple thing, right? And we know Jesse Puljujarvi's a guy who, according to his Liga stats, just has to shoot the puck to score. So yeah, you know what? Give Jesse Puljujarvi the puck as much as possible. For Tyler Ennis, he had 16 goals and 21 assists last year. So a guy who's pretty even splits, right? Those are not too different. Not like he had 10 goals and 27 assists or anything silly. It's pretty even. 16 and 21. That's not a bad season, and it maybe is exactly what the Oilers do need with a guy that's going to play with Puljujarvi and Turris, because you know Kyle Turris at this point is probably going to rack up a bunch of assists if that third line's going well, but the goals the past 2-3 years haven't really been there for Kyle Turris, so it's something to keep in mind for Kyle Turris. He might hit 6-7 goals. You'd be very lucky if he hit that many goals in a 48 game season, right? See, I have him projected there at 7 goals. That's based on his stats last year, where he only played, I believe, 55 games and had that about. So really, realistically, right, you're sitting in that 6 to 8 goal range for Kyle Turris. But again, that's on a 48 game season. So if you end up going upwards to a 55-60 game season, because we start January 1st, not sometime in February, well, that's going to make things really interesting really quick for the Edmonton Oilers, because not only do you have guys like Turris and Puljujarvi and Ennis having more runway to rack up the points, but you also have more time for things to go wrong and things to not go according to plan, or for things to change a different way. So you look at that, right? Obviously, okay, there's a lot of factors that could happen as the season wears on if it's a longer season. Injuries are one, right? 48 games, you're that many fewer games likely to get injured than you are if you play 60. So there's a lot weighing into the decisions and what has to happen in the point scoring for the Oilers if the season is longer. But on a 48-game season, I've got, as I said, Tyler Ennis projected to be a 24-point guy. But is he going to still be that half-point per game player after breaking his leg, right? We all saw that in the playoffs. He's now back on the ice from all the reports I've seen, and he's getting ready to go again. But is he going to be that guy he was when he got here in Edmonton and had the 4 points in 9 games for us? The other side, too, with Kyle Turris is the fact that, well, that playoffs didn't exactly go according to plan for him. But he also produced in the playoffs. He had 2 points in 3 games. You know what? Outside of McDavid, Nugent-Hopkins, and Draisaitl, that's pretty good. That's better than Yamamoto. That's better than this guy, better than that guy. So for Tyler Ennis, not a bad situation, I don't think. And I guess realistically it comes down to, if you believe he repeats the performance, we have no problem. And I'm just looking at it. That's the overarching question, right? That's the title. Is you see, can Kyle Turris repeat his point per game performance from last year, points per game, half point per game performance, whatever you want to call it? And realistically, it's a tough question, but end of the day, I think the guy's totally capable. He seems to play well with a lot of minutes under his belt in Ottawa and, of course, in Edmonton. Almost half point per game, 4 points in 9 games. You can't complain about that too much. If he would have gotten to 10 games, maybe he got it to 5, and all of a sudden we're laughing, right? So Tyler Ennis, I guess, kind of to put it the way Caleb Jones is Tyler Ennis could definitely be one of those secondary driving forces to Edmonton Oilers' success this upcoming season, simply because, right, he has the potential to be an impact player in the NHL lineup, but at the same rate, if he isn't, it could kind of hurt the Oilers in this situation and system based on the fact that, well, if the Oilers don't get the production out of Tyler Ennis, they have to find it elsewhere, and that's one key member that you just signed in the offseason to be a guy to give you that production. So I guess that's a tough question. Sorry, I'm contending with a sick dog this morning, and he keeps coming up and butting me and wanting to go outside and barking, so I'm just taking care of him. I think I lost my last point there, but don't mind me. I'll try and get out of here as quick as possible. But yeah, end of the day, Tyler Ennis is a guy that can move the needle for the Oilers, but if he doesn't, I guess, is it going to hurt the Oilers? Probably not, but you'd like to at least see Tyler Ennis repeat the performance he had this past season with Ottawa and with us, because that would be a big get to the Edmonton Oilers lineup. You look at that for a quick second, go back to that graphic, 24 points, that ties him with Turris, that puts him on pace just ahead of Puljujarvi, that puts him behind Cahoon and Kailer Yamamoto and all the big guys. So yeah, you know what? That's fine. That's dandy. If Tyler Ennis is that third line scoring forward up there with Turris and Puljujarvi, yes sirree. And I guess that's the key, is I've looked at Tyler Ennis as being a huge part of that third line with Turris and Puljujarvi. And you look at the stats, if he's an even spread guy, as we mentioned earlier, then you have him as a guy who's going to be capable of not only producing a couple of goals, but also a couple of assists when you need them and need to get pucks to the back of the net. So for Tyler Ennis, I guess that's really all it is he going to repeat it? If he does, the Oilers look to set up the success very well. If he doesn't, then it's next man up theory. And does that $1 million look like a waste, kind of like that 1.2 on Puljujarvi Kara this past season? Guys, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. I will catch you in the next one.